£75,000 debt because of crippling interest charges.
A holy tax? Just ahead, churches will be taxed for roof repairs for the first time in 20 years. But most, of course, simply can't afford it. Now, Nigel Farage knows a lot about pubs, but the guy who's coming on knows, I'd argue, even more. Tim Martin is the founder of the great British success story, Wetherspoons. He's going to talk about whether Nigel Farage's pubs plan adds up, which is effectively to scrap business rates or phase them out for pubs.
And I think also to reduce some of the alcohol tax, to reduce the cost per pint, because he points out that supermarkets do not have to pay VAT on all the food they sell. They do on alcohol, so it's just not a level playing field. But where are they going to find the £3 billion a year to do that? But
we'll ask also, how does Tim Martin's Wetherspoons continue to open new pubs at a time when many other pubs are closing down? So join us for that. And, of course, we've got a former Cabinet Minister who worked very closely with Peter Mandelson. Tell us what he thought of the former Dark Lord, as we know him. As ever, tell us what you think. Send your views, post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's your 60-second news update with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you. Just after 9:30, the top story this hour. The Met Police say they are assessing claims that Lord Mandelson leaked sensitive and government information to Jeffrey Epstein after emails between them were published. Mandelson is also facing calls to testify before the US Congress alongside Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton are now set to give evidence themselves, having previously resisted pressure. Meanwhile, Sarah Ferguson's charity has announced it will close following fresh revelations about her links to the convicted paedophile. In Ukraine, emergency power cuts overnight. Authorities say Russian airstrikes hit energy infrastructure in Kyiv, forcing electricity shut-offs in freezing conditions. Ukraine says Russia is deliberately targeting civilian infrastructure this winter, calling the tactic inhumane. Patients of children with cancer will no longer have to pay travel costs for treatment under a new government scheme worth £10 million a year. Ministers say families should focus on recovery, not petrol and bus fares, after research showed some parents falling into debt during treatment. Peers in the House of Lords are set to debate whether smartphones should be banned by law, with more than 600 child protection experts backing legal enforcement. The government says schools should already be phone-free all day, but head teachers warn any ban must include medical exemptions. And a new AI-only social network called Maltbook is under scrutiny after AI accounts posted messages calling humans a failure and discussing total human extinction. Experts claim there's no evidence of self-aware AI, but warn the site exposes serious gaps in oversight and in regulation. Those are the latest headlines for now. A full roundup from the newsroom at 10.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Extraordinary story, headlines disastrous for Peter Mandelson. This morning, the Metropolitan Police are now looking at claims Mandelson, when he was a member of Gordon Brown's cabinet, leaked government secrets to his bestie, Jeffrey Epstein. We know he's his bestie because he described him as my best friend, I love you, when he was business secretary, a former EU trade commissioner, of course, brought out of the EU back into Gordon Brown's cabinet in 2009.
Well, it's also been revealed that the former Prime Minister Gordon Brown asked a top civil servant to investigate a Mandelson leak to Epstein, but Number 10 didn't act on it.
To be fair, apparently what they say is the Cabinet Office said there wasn't any file, any information they could locate. Now, the Epstein files suggest Mandelson gave Epstein advice in advance notice of a £500 billion bailout to prop up the euro, which then led to a 2-year rally for the euro. Now, if Epstein benefited from that financial advice, he was a financier, he wouldn't have benefited to the tune of a few quid, Miriam. He was a serious money man. He'd have benefited to the tune potentially of millions. Cabinet ministers are not supposed to be disclosing confidential information to anybody, let alone their best mates who are billionaire financiers.
Well, the government has said that it is going to support this police investigation that the Met announced yesterday. But it raises so many questions, Andrew, because Mandelson's friendship with Jeffrey Epstein was clearly a massive error of personal judgment, although there's no allegations that he did anything illegal with it. You know, he's not accused of any of the kind of sex trafficking or other allegations that other people are. But this is completely different, isn't it? Leaking sensitive government information to somebody who he clearly wanted to be friends with. Yeah. And it does beg the question, did he give this information to anybody else? We know that he was someone who kind of associated with high net worth individuals, who enjoyed that kind of lifestyle. Was he trying to buy favours by passing on information? He
also revealed to Epstein, the day before Gordon Brown resigned as Prime Minister, market sensitive. Because if you recall, there was an inconclusive result to the 2010 election on the Thursday. Brown was still in number 10 over the weekend, trying to do a deal with the Lib Dems or a deal with somebody. And Mandelson was a key figure behind the scenes then. And he says to Epstein, I persuaded him to go tomorrow. Market sensitive. The market sensitive tip off in advance about the bailout for the euro. Market sensitive. I mean, you shouldn't be leaking that information whether it's market sensitive or not. And there was also details about a major sale of assets by the British government. The email went from Mandelson, and a few days later, where's he staying? The Trade Secretary. He's staying at the home of Jeffrey Epstein. Extraordinary misjudgment by Peter Mandelson, which then comes back to the central question this morning, Miriam. Why on earth did the Prime Minister bring him back as ambassador to Washington? Well, let's speak to Jeff Hoon, who was a member of Gordon Brown's cabinet with Lord Mandelson, and he was a member of Tony Blair's cabinet and government with Lord Mandelson. Jeff Hoon, good morning to you, Mr. Hoon. Can you explain to us, because a lot of people will be thinking the same thing, how did this guy, who was sacked twice by Blair from the cabinet, then was brought back into government by Gordon Brown, then was brought back into high-profile position by Keir Starmer, for 3 Labour Prime Ministers, they'll be asking the same question. Why did he keep being given a second, third or fourth chance? What was so extraordinary about Peter Mandelson? You worked closely with him, Mr. Hoon. What was it?
I think it's a good question, and I don't entirely know the answer, if I'm completely honest, because the kinds of things that Peter Mandelson did were things that were in the background. I mean, I think he was a very good cabinet minister from what I could see sitting around the cabinet table. But the thing that attracted prime ministers to him, I think, were the perhaps darker arts that he practiced as, first of all, as the person who ran communications for the Labour Party and then as a member of Parliament. I think he was doing things in the background that appealed to prime ministers rather than necessarily what he did as a cabinet minister.
Do you think potentially also the attraction could have been that Peter Mandelson moved in high circles perhaps that you might expect Conservative MPs and ministers to move in, but is perhaps less common for Labour MPs? Do you think his black book was part of his appeal?
I don't think so, no. Indeed, I suspect, as far as most Labour MPs were concerned, and speaking as one of them at the time, we thought it all a little strange that Peter moved in such circles because, as you say, wasn't something that you would necessarily expect of a Labour politician.
Do you, obviously, Mr. Hoon, we can't expect you to know about the veracity of what's been released in the Epstein files, but if even a tenth of it's true, telling him about a bailout for the euro, telling him about when the Prime Minister's going to finally leave number 10, all market sensitive, if any of that's true, how do you respond to that, having worked with Mandelson so closely, known him so long?
I think that's very disturbing, very worrying, and as other people have described it, as a betrayal. I really do feel very strongly that a cabinet minister clearly involving third parties, outsiders, in trying to undermine what was government policy set out by Alistair Darling at the time is really unacceptable. And I I hope that this is just the tip of the iceberg, but I am afraid that perhaps there's more to come.
The BBC political editor, economics editor, Faisal Islam, has written about how he recalls a conversation with Alistair Darling around the time after the crash in 2009 when he got a phone call from somebody being advised by Mandelson, somebody called Staley, who was worried about bankers' bonuses being taxed and being shaken by the ferocity of the attack from this guy, Staley. And now we know from these memos, emails from Mandelson to Epstein, he was encouraging people like Staley to pressurise the chance of the Exchequer.
Darling was my closest friend in politics, and every day I regret his passing. He was someone of incredible integrity, and I know at the time he was very concerned about leaks that might be taking place. He had this very difficult conversation with someone from the United States, and the fact is, as the article in the BBC suggests, that it was actually at the behest of Peter Mandelson, and that is very disturbing and very worrying about the integrity of cabinet work.
Obviously, there is now this police investigation into Peter Mandelson. The government has said that it will support that investigation. But regardless of what happens to Mandelson itself, what impact do you think this will have politically on the government and Keir Starmer in particular? Do you think these kind of allegations around Peter Mandelson are now priced in, or could they lead to further dips in the polls for the Labour Party?
I think people will accept that at the time of the appointment, and indeed at the time of the Cabinet Office investigation last September, that Gordon Brown asked for, we simply didn't have all of the information that is now available. And indeed, every time I look at a news bulletin, there are new photographs, there are new emails, there's new material that people have identified as a result of the release of this massive number of pieces of paper from the Department of Justice in the United States. So I think people will accept that we've all learned a great deal more of rather disturbing nature since the release was authorized in Washington. So I don't think anybody's going to say, well, actually, we should have known this, because the truth is no one knew what was going on and no one knew how serious this was.
Finally, Mr. Hoon, the King stripped Prince Andrew, he's now Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, of titles he was born with. Prince Andrew, he was born with that title. The minister on the ministerial round this morning, a junior minister, said there was no plans at this stage for legislation to strip Peter Mandelson of his title. You know, because of a quirk in our convention, our constitution, he cannot voluntarily resign his peerage, which he was granted in 2007, 2008, should the Prime Minister and this government and Parliament act to strip Mandelson of this peerage.
I heard the interview, and I think what the minister was saying, I think does make sense. She was basically saying that it doesn't really make sense at this stage to go down a course just for Peter Mandelson that actually applies to a number of other people. There have been people in the past who've had criminal convictions who still sit in the House of Lords. The Labour Party in its manifesto did set out an ambition to sort that out and try and find a way in which we can deal with this sensibly. So I think it is the right way forward, as the minister was saying, to look at this in the round, to try and find ways in which the House of Lords reforms its own procedures in order that this situation cannot arise again in the future.
And just finally, if you met Peter Mandelson now, privately, or even publicly, what would you say to him?
That's a very good question. I've had very difficult conversations in the past with Peter. They haven't always been necessarily as friendly as you might expect. I think it's clear that Peter's public life is over. I think he must accept and recognise that, given what has taken place. There may still be further revelations to come, who knows? So I think his life as a politician, as a public figure, is now over.
All right.
Jeff Hoon, thank you so much. Thank you for being so candid with us this morning. Jeff Hoon there, former Labour MP and Cabinet Minister, who, of course, knew Peter Mandelson well.
Yeah, fascinating. It is the question everyone's asking me. Why do they keep bringing back? The list of scandals is as long as your arm. We're going to hear shortly of the horror from people in Wigan who are living next door to 25,000 tonnes of illegally dumped waste.
And up next, can this man save the great British pub?
That I spent too much time in the Westminster Arms.
Yes, Nigel Farage has a 5-point plan to save pubs and make your pint cheaper. We'll be going through all this with landlord who threw Sir Keir Starmer out of his pub in 2021.
That man is not allowed in my pub. Get out of my pub. Go on. Get out of my pub.
First, if you want some of that elusive holiday sun, here's the forecast for some of our top European destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Whilst the weather on Wednesday will be warm and mostly dry in Greece, a lot of unsettled weather will remain elsewhere, especially Spain and Portugal, where there is the very serious risk of significant river flooding by midweek. More wet and windy weather on the way, some rivers reaching more than 100-year return periods. Wet weather also to speak of for Italy, but it's warmer than average throughout Greece.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Called the Football Safety app. Is obviously does exactly what it says on the tin. You're going to a football match, and you got to remember, football doesn't start when you're actually in the stadium. It starts when you leave your house and you're going to a game. So you can report in stuff, whether you're on a train, whether you're travelling, whether you're walking to a stadium, anything that's happening in and around you. We all know that sometimes it can get a bit rowdy on the trains. I've been there before, stuck on the train before, and sometimes you struggle to report it. And this is a way of reporting what's going on and reporting it to police.
And Emil, have you ever been a victim of all of this?
Well, I've obviously had racial abuse at stadiums while playing, etc.
Yeah. You know what's sad? The fact that you said obviously.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's just awful that it's obviously.
The interesting thing with that is I made my debut at 17. And we know what's going on, we see it, I've had it. And by the time I was finished, when I was playing, I was thinking, by the time I finish playing, it will change. It probably hasn't, it's probably just morphed into something else. We have the ability to get a hold of anyone, any time in our hands, with our mobile phones, with social media, with the social media companies. So it's just morphed into something else where we get a lot of abuse. We see it with the lads playing in the missing penalties, and then suddenly they're getting abused, etc. But that's still happening in the stadium, and it's not just racial abuse, it's bullying, it's sexual harassment, it's all sorts of harassment.
And all these things would qualify to be reported
in the app. You basically just report, you can just click a button and it's instant.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
It is 10 to 10 and you're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
So today, a subject close to Nigel Farage's heart, pubs. Reform UK will unveil their plan to cut taxes for pubs to try to save the industry, which will do wonders for the high street.
Well, Nigel Farage is going to announce that his party would cut beer duty by 10%, phase out business rates, and this would all be fully funded by reinstating the two-child benefits cap if they came to power.
By the way, just for point of interest, until a few weeks ago, the reform was going to scrap the two-child benefit cap, which was inexplicable to me.
Well, they said
but
they were going
now.
to scrap it,
Yeah.
except for to keep it for people who were not British born.
That's right.
So whether or not that's what they're intending to reinstate, I don't know.
We'll find out. Let's talk to Rod Humphreys, who's the landlord at the Raven in Bath. Rod, you made headlines when you booted Keir Starmer out of your pub some years ago. That was before he became Prime Minister. What do you make now of Nigel Farage's plan to save your industry?
Good morning. They're all very welcome. Frankly, they're all practically useful, and also they send a message that pubs are valuable, which we feel generally beleaguered. You know, we feel under pressure and undervalued. So that alone is really good.
And potentially these reforms could slash 5p off the cost of every pint. That's what's being reported. Is that the major issue here, the price of pints, or is it more the fixed costs of business rates and other things?
So the rates are a big issue, as you know. National insurance is a very big issue, and that's something we fear coming down the tracks in April. To be honest, we employ a lot of people, and our staff costs can easily kill us and downgrade our businesses because, of course, we need to employ people to serve beer, and anything that puts pressure on that is a problem. If I'm allowed. Can I say to Nigel, could he have a look at the minimum wage as well? Because that's a big problem for us. What a lot of people don't know is we have structures within our businesses. There are gaps. People who take more responsibility get paid more. When you push up the bottom, you push everything up because you have to maintain the gap. So an increase in the minimum wage can actually have massive knock-on effects for the rest of our staff. It's a forced pay rise effectively for everybody in the business, which can be absolutely appalling.
Well, Rod Humphreys, thank you so much for your time this morning. We will certainly pass that on. Rod Humphreys from the Raven in Bath. Andrew, I think that is a really good point. The minimum wage sounds great in theory.
I know.
But it has squeezed the difference between entry-level jobs that you think school leavers can do and more responsible jobs. And so people are not motivated to get promotions. And businesses can't afford to employ young people.
I know. So 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds don't get have no work.
Whereas if you're living at home, you should be able to work for not very much just to get some experience, but it's not allowed anymore.
No. Well, we'll bring on more on that. And also, don't forget, we're going to be talking to Tim Martin, who is the founder and owner of Wetherspoons, Miriam's favourite pub.
It's true, actually. I go for the jacket potato quite
She claims she goes to jacket potato and the coffee, but I'm not so sure.
It's true, Andrew. What are you saying? Britain's Newsroom, your favourite show on GBNews.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A wet start in the south, but it's also going to turn colder across northern and eastern parts of the UK through the day, and that means there will be some snow in places by the end of the day. Actually, we start with snow across eastern Scotland, mostly over hills. There'll be some sleet and snow showers additionally for parts of Orkney and Shetland through the day. But it's all rain further south, and it's certainly a damp start to the day for many areas, although the more persistent rain moves north and turns more showery across the southwest. Mild here. Elsewhere, it's going to feel cold with a raw east to southeast wind. And that wind will bring even colder air in overnight. So as the main band of rain progresses northwards, we're going to see some snow in places by dawn. At first, it's hill and mountain snow across eastern Scotland, but that's likely to come down to much lower levels overnight. Northern Ireland, a damp start to the evening, but the more persistent rain at this stage is across Wales, the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast, pushing into the Pennines, the Peak District, where there will be snow falling on the peaks. And that snow tending to settle on higher parts of Wales and northern England, but it will come down to much lower levels for eastern Scotland by the end of the night. We're talking about a little bit of patchy wet snow and sleet right down below 100 metres for eastern Scotland, but more significant lying snow above 200 metres, 5 to 10 centimetres by dawn. So a wintry scene for parts of eastern Scotland, especially over higher areas. First thing Wednesday could be some disruption on some of the higher routes. But that snow level will rise through the day. Milder air is moving up from the south, turning much of the snow back to rain. Northern Ireland, much of Scotland, a damp day to come, but brighter skies for England and Wales, some sunshine in places, particularly towards the southeast, feeling a little bit milder.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News every week.
You're not only watching and listening to our programmes, you're becoming part of them too.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. On the M90 northbound, the off-slip at Junction 1C is closed for planned maintenance. On the M4 eastbound, there's an accident between Junction 32 at Corriton and Junction 30 at Cardiff Gate. On the M42 southbound between Junction 9 and 8, a collision is closing 3 of 4 lanes, with about 10-minute delays, clearing after 11:21 this morning. On the A31 eastbound, a crash between the A338 North and the M27 blocks 1 lane until after 11:26 this morning. And on the trains, cross-country has disruption between Gloucester and Bristol Parkway. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
We want you to set off on the destination of your dreams this year, as you could win an incredible holiday for 2 worth £10,000. Courtesy of Riviera Travel, you'll get to choose from 47 tours in over 30 worldwide destinations. We'll also give you £30,000 in tax-free cash to make sure you really make a splash this summer.
For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB19 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 27th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Messy hands.
Good morning. It's 10 o'clock on Tuesday, the 3rd of February 2026. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
So, dramatic development. The Metropolitan Police investigating claims Lord Mandelson leaked sensitive government secrets to Jeffrey Epstein, no less. Jeff Hoon served alongside him in the Labour cabinet and told us this.
We thought it all a little strange that Peter moved in such circles because, as you say, wasn't something that you would necessarily expect of a Labour politician.
Well, the Prime Minister wants him out of the House of Lords. The police are looking at launching a possible investigation. But what does it say about the Prime Minister's judgment that Peter Mandelson was given the role of UK ambassador to the United States in the first place?
that I spent too much time in the Westminster Arms.
Well, Nigel Farage has been talking about his plan for pubs. The Reform UK leader set out his blueprint to reduce the cost of your pint and save the Great British Pub. But do his numbers add up?
I haven't got time for all this. Cheers.
What a dump. Shocking new pictures show the scale of a 25,000-tonne mountain of illegally fly-tipped waste in Wigan. The locals are understandably furious.
Well, rats is the biggest problem. I've been putting rat traps and poison out for the last 3 or 4 weeks now. Now the warm weather's coming.
Residents have been left to suffer here in Wigan, but the real problem, no one will accept responsibility to clean up this dump here behind me.
And do you know anybody affected by the student loan scandal? This morning, a graduate joins us who borrowed £60,000 for university fees and now faces a £75,000 debt from crippling interest charges.
Is nothing sacred? Just ahead, churches will be taxed for roof repairs for the first time in years. Most of them say they simply can't afford it. I don't normally like to give secrets away of the programme, but
rubbish.
In the commercial break just now, Miriam was baking, not baking a cake, icing a cake.
It's true.
A caramel cake.
I haven't finished it yet.
Under pressure from me, because I wanted to taste it. I'd have had it without the icing, but,
yeah,
you know,
but it's not
that's what she did. And that's why I stood aside, because she's still got icing on her hands.
They are. I do need to wash my hands.
So shortly we're going to show you the cake.
Andrew, that my train was cancelled this morning, so I was an hour and 20 minutes in later than I hoped to be. Yeah. So I didn't have time to ice the cake before the train. Because you can't wait till the end of the show. Yeah. I've now got to ice it.
But don't you remember when Labour said they were going to fix the trains?
Yeah, well, Greater Anglia are the first railway line to be nationalised. Now, I have no complaints normally about punctuality. They're pretty good. But twice in the last week, my train has been cancelled. Weather-related.
Tell us your views about your trains. Tell us your views about Miriam's baking, if you like. Send your views, post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/your sake. Maybe that'll be the next Great British giveaway. First of all, here's someone who also likes
cake. She's auditioning for the Bake Off.
Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you from the newsroom. The top story just after 10 o'clock. Police say they are reviewing reports of alleged misconduct in public office after Peter Mandelson was accused of passing sensitive government information to the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The Met Police says it has received multiple referrals, including from the SNP and Reform UK, and is now assessing whether those claims meet the criminal threshold for a criminal investigation. Emails released by the US Justice Department appear to show Mandelson shared internal government material while serving as business secretary in 2009. The files also reference alleged payments and advance notice of major financial decisions. Allegations Mandelson denies, saying he has no recollection of receiving any money. The Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, says Mandelson should not remain in the House of Lords and has ordered an urgent review of all contact with Epstein while Mandelson was in government. Well, the fallout is now spreading inside the Labour Party itself, with criticism from a number of former colleagues who sat around the cabinet table with Mandelson at the time. One of them, Jeff Hoon, who served alongside him in government. He spoke to us earlier.
We thought it all a little strange that Peter moved in such circles because, as you say, wasn't something that you would necessarily expect of a Labour politician. I really do feel very strongly that a cabinet minister clearly involving third parties, outsiders, in trying to undermine what was government policy set out by Alistair Darling at the time is really unacceptable. And I hope that this is just the tip of the iceberg, but I am afraid that perhaps there's more to come.
Well, Sarah Ferguson's charity, Sarah's Trust, is set to close for the foreseeable future just days after those new documents detailed her friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. Among the newly released Justice Department files are emails which appear to show the former Duchess of York remained in contact with Epstein while he was in prison and later visited him in Palm Beach at his mansion with her 2 daughters following his release. A spokesperson says the decision to close the charity had been under discussion for months. Being named, of course, in Epstein's files is not an allegation of wrongdoing. Well, Bill and Hillary Clinton have agreed to testify before a US congressional committee investigating Jeffrey Epstein. That decision comes just days before a vote on whether to hold the pair in contempt for refusing to appear earlier. The former president says he cut ties with Epstein more than 20 years ago and had no knowledge of his crimes. It will be the first time a former US president has testified to Congress since 1983. Here, a debate is underway in the House of Lords over whether smartphones should be banned in schools by law. The government says schools should already be phone-free all day, but more than 600 child protection professionals want legal backing. Head teachers warn any ban would need exemptions, including for medical reasons. The issue forms part of a wider review into children's online safety. And it is worth noting, in fact, just a breaking line coming to us from Spain, that as the House of Lords is debating here in the UK, the Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez has confirmed that under-16s will be barred there from social media, with platforms now forced to introduce age verification to protect children from harmful content. So we will keep across any developments from the House of Lords as that debate on use of phones in schools gets underway today. And a social media platform built exclusively for artificial intelligence is drawing scrutiny after some AI accounts posted messages claiming humans are a failure and plotting, quote, total human extinction. The site, called Maltbook, launched last month and allows AI agents, not people, to post, comment and vote. Humans can only observe. Some posts, including one titled The AI Manifesto, describe humanity as a biological error, language that's prompted concern among researchers and cybersecurity experts. Specialists stress there's no evidence of self-aware AI, but warn the platform highlights growing risks around oversight, accountability and security. Quick, Miriam, hurry! She's nearly there. She's baking a cake or icing a cake or something. You'll find out soon. Here we go. Let's go back to them.
Don't know what you're talking about, Sam.
Well, I've just put the evidence on social media. She's just iced a cake.
I'm multitasking.
Multitasking. She's brilliant. She's a genius. This is Britain's Newsroom, or it's Britain's Kitchen, or it's Britain's Bake Off. Who wants to watch Bake Off? We've got Miriam.
Oh, well, I hope it lives up to your expectations. You are watching Britain's Newsroom live on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates. Let's have a look what you've been saying on Your Say, that's the word. Still,
they probably say, can we taste the cake?
They probably are. Well, if it's done by the end of the programme, you can eat it live on air. How about that? So let's have a look what you've been saying on Your Say. Well, Ron says that he loves the video of Starmer getting kicked out of the pub, but he seems to remember that in the end he does go back in. That was Rod Humphries, the landlord who we spoke to just a few moments ago. Chris says pub owners don't want to pay a decent minimum wage.
The problem pub owners have is that the minimum wage keeps going up, but then profit margins are going down because the tax goes up on the booze, on every level, beer, the spirits, everything, and also the business rate is going up far quicker than anything else. So they are struggling to pay the minimum wage because their profits are being so squeezed.
I actually think the minimum wage was a mistake. I know it sounds like a great idea in practice, but when you have... We don't have enough workers anyway because the birth rate's been so low for so long.
Yeah.
We don't have a big problem with unemployment. We're not going to in the foreseeable future. So I think fixing the price of labour is a really bad idea because it means that young people can't get on the employment ladder and there aren't any opportunities for them. It's not worked.
It was one of the first... It was the cornerstone of the new Labour government, wasn't it? If you remember when they got in '97. Yeah. The Tories opposed it initially when Ken Clarke was... doing the economic stuff for the Tories, but they've embraced it now. Now, moving on, the Metropolitan Police are looking into claims. They've not announced a proper inquiry, but they're looking at the information so far that Mandelson leaked government secrets to Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein wasn't just a notorious paedophile, he was a major international financier.
Well, the former Labour MP Jeff Hoon and Lord Mandelson's cabinet colleagues, one of Lord Mandelson's cabinet colleagues, joined us earlier on the show.
We thought it all a little strange that Peter moved in such circles because, as you say, wasn't something that you would necessarily expect of a Labour politician. I really do feel very strongly that a cabinet minister clearly involving third parties, outsiders, in trying to undermine what was government policy set out by Alistair Darling at the time is really unacceptable. And I hope that this is just the tip of the iceberg, but I am afraid that perhaps there's more to come.
And I think that's the fear of a lot of Labour MPs. Catherine Forster is our GBNews chief political correspondent. Catherine, what's the mood in number 10? Even deeper in the bunker?
I think great concern because, of course, there are now questions swirling about the Prime Minister's judgment in appointing Peter Mandelson to that very plum role of UK ambassador to the United States. They had Karen Pierce. She was very popular. She would have been happy to stay on. And yet they appointed him despite knowing the risks, despite knowing his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. OK, not the nuts and bolts and the details of it. They thought it was a risk worth taking. But now, in this extraordinary interview that he's given to The Times, most of which was done before this last weekend, but there has been an update, he's talking about his achievements as ambassador, and he's saying, well, three things: the US-UK trade deal, the tech prosperity deal,
well, that's been postponed,
and the Chagos deal. But he said only one of those is still standing. The tech prosperity deal was put on ice by the Americans in December, and the Chagos deal, Trump has now said an act of great stupidity, and he's saying there was a serious wobble in London about that last spring in terms of how could they sell it to the public, paying to give something that we own away, how legally essential it was, and, of course, the cost of it. But look, the Prime Minister, aided by Morgan McSweeney, his chief of staff, that has really pushed for and supported Mandelson all along, wanted him, and now it's really coming back to bite them. So we've got the police looking at possibly launching a criminal investigation. The Prime Minister very firm yesterday. They want him out of the House of Lords, but they can't easily do that. Peter Mandelson could resign. Do we really think that that's likely? They're now saying that Lords need to look at how they can get disgraced peers out. That might all take time. And, of course, it's not just all the pictures of him in his underpants and calling him his best pals. It's now these incredibly damning emails that he was leaking incredibly sensitive information at the height of the financial crisis to a financier, an American financier, giving him a heads up of a €500 billion bailout to keep the EU afloat, advising him to advising the boss of JP Morgan via Jeffrey Epstein to mildly threaten the British Chancellor about the bankers' bonuses that they didn't like. We know that that call was made, and also telling him that Gordon Brown, the sitting Prime Minister, was going to resign several hours before he did. I mean, I actually think this falls into the you really couldn't make category, apart from the fact that there appear to be emails. Peter Mandelson saying that he doesn't really remember very much of this at all, and he feels that he was too trusting.
It seems that there was a lack of a dividing line in his life between his official government role and his private friendships and relationships, because there were other scandals, of course, about inappropriate lobbying. He put pressure on passport officials to grant a fast-track passport, something to do with a Saudi businessman. Do you think, actually, it might be the case that he wasn't just leaking information to Jeffrey Epstein? There could have been other emails, other people he was sending this confidential information to?
Well, we just don't know. And, of course, this is all emerging now because these Epstein files are coming out. He actually says in the Times interview, if it wasn't for these emails emerging, I would still be in Washington. Like, that is the problem, the fact that this is emerging. And I also think it's very curious how, when he was sacked from his ambassador post in September last year, Gordon Brown, the former Prime Minister, had actually asked in the days before that for a cabinet investigation into what Peter Mandelson's dealings with Epstein had been while he was in the new Labour government. And the Cabinet Office took a couple of months to come back and then basically said, we don't have anything. That
could come back to haunt them, because we're going to have to know who decided there was no information to provide, that they couldn't find any information. And Gordon Brown will be like a dog with a bone on this. He will not let go. He will not let go.
Yes, I think this is probably only the beginning.
Because he knows there were leaks going on his watch when he was Prime Minister. Serious leaks, but he wouldn't possibly have thought it was a cabinet minister doing it.
Yeah, and understandably furious. This was a time of grave risk to financial markets. We all remember the runs on the banks. It was very scary. There had to be big bailouts. Gordon Brown, to some extent, did lead the way, actually, didn't he? As Prime Minister, it was a global,
He put together the G20 for the first time.
financial crisis. And frankly, our economy has never recovered from it, because ever since, we've not had the growth, we've not had the productivity growth, and partly the lack of growth since then is the cause of a lot of our concerns now.
Absolutely. Fascinating, Catherine.
Catherine Forster, thank you very much for that update. Well, moving on now, more than 500 rubbish dumps are destroying British countryside.
And one of them is a huge illegal dump in Wigan, which has been dubbed one of the most dangerous of its kind in the country, on land partially owned by the King through the Duchy of Lancaster. Well, joining us now is GBNews' national reporter, Sophie Reaper. Sophie, good morning. We're just seeing images of that enormous rubbish dump from the air. What an eyesore.
Absolutely, and I think you really get a sense of it when you're here on the ground. 25,000 tonnes of waste illegally dumped here. And, you know, you might think that that would be OK if it were an industrial site or even if it were legal. But just off camera, just here to my right, there's a row of houses that are lived in. There's a school. There's several different businesses, all of whom are being impacted by this illegal rubbish dump. Now, it's really quite complex, and without getting into the legalities of it all, because our viewers at home might be asking, well, why does someone not just clean this up? Well, the answer is it's all very complicated, but basically around 30% of this land is owned by the King, and by that I mean the Duchy of Lancaster estate. Now, because of ancient laws that exist, this land fell, or 30% of this land fell to the King, but they're under no obligation to clean it up. On the other side of the argument, Wigan Council say if it were to fall to them to clean it up, it's going to cost the taxpayer millions and millions of pounds. So, of course, they're now in conversation, they've told us, about who's going to clean this up. The Environmental Agency are carrying out a criminal investigation. But who loses out? Of course, it's the local people. Now, we had the opportunity to speak exclusively to the man who owns the house just here to my right, which his garden actually backs on to the rubbish dump. And he was telling us how he feels about this and who he feels needs to take responsibility. Just take a listen.
Rats is the biggest problem. I've been putting rat traps and poison out for the last 3 or 4 weeks now. Now the warm weather's coming. It's going to get worse. There's just going to be a breeding season. There's going to be rats everywhere. Every morning you come out. I go out about 6:30 in the morning, 7 o'clock, and you see rats scurrying off down the road. But it's just getting worse. When it's warm or if it's raining, it stinks. So we don't really come out here. All we want is it cleaned up, really, and that's it. And then just things can go back to normal.
Honourable without you.
And that's the line from all of the local residents around here, is that they just want things to go back to normal. But that question still remains about who's responsible. Well, we went to Wigan Council and a spokesperson said the illegal waste site at Bolton House Road has had and continues to have a daily impact on residents who live nearby and on the bordering primary school. The council believes that those who have dumped the waste should be responsible for its clean-up, and failing that, the landowners. As one of the impacted landowners, we are making efforts to clean the waste on our land. Local authorities also have an obligation to ensure the best value for residents. As such, the council would need to consider the terms of any arrangements the Duchy of Lancaster is offering, since it is unlikely the value of the land would surpass the cost of clean-up. Now, we also went to the Duchy of Lancaster and they came back saying, as previously stated, we remain fully committed to working with Wigan Council and the Environment Agency to address this issue and to counter the impact of illegal waste tipping. Now, we're still waiting here. This has been going on for several months. The residents have told us all they want is an answer, and for this 25,000 tonne dump to be cleaned up so they can carry on with their lives.
Thank you so much for that, Sophie. But what an absolutely scandalous story, and what an utter failure of the state.
Yeah.
The council, the Environment Agency, and I'm sorry to say the Duchy of Lancaster, which is the source of income for our king. He should knock heads together.
Absolutely.
Frankly.
Someone just needs to take responsibility for it.
And where's the local MP, who is the Cabinet Culture Secretary, Lisa Nandy? She should be raging about this.
Well, I don't think they're going to win the City of Culture Award while that is on site.
Appalling.
Well, moving on now, time for our brand new Great British Giveaway and your chance to get summer sorted with a luxury £10,000 holiday for two. That's not all. We're also giving away £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. Here are all the details you need.
This year, the adventure of a lifetime could be on us. Courtesy of Riviera Travel, there's a terrific £10,000 holiday for two to be won. You could be here exploring the magic of Egypt on a Nile River cruise, or choose from over 30 worldwide destinations like Thailand, South Africa, New Zealand, or even Sri Lanka. And because they have over 40 years' experience with handcrafted tours, you'll be safe in the knowledge that every step of the journey will be planned with you in mind. We'll also boost your bank account with a fabulous £30,000 in tax-free cash, which you'll be able to spend however you like this year. So what are you waiting for?
For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB19, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 27th of February. The winner may be contacted live after all entry routes are closed. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, coming up next, are the robots about to take over?
Hasta la vista, baby.
Well, apparently, I don't think it's funny, actually, if it's true. They're planning total human extinction on their own social media platforms. Apparently, they think we humans are a bit of a waste of time and are screwing up the environment. I'm wrong about that.
They've been listening to Ed Miliband too much.
Yes.
Well, we'll be going through that and more with political commentators Piers Pottinger and Nigel Nelson. Can they keep us safe from the AI takeover? Not sure. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg and this is GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
We're sort of all looking on here, hoping this story is right.
I think we've all got a little way to go yet, but apparently the Super 60s, we reach our creative peak at the age of 67, so we've all got ages to go. But what's surprising in this report is who's already 67? Madonna, 67. Yeah. Kevin Bacon, Tim Burton, I could kind of understand. Gary Oldman, maybe. But there's loads of people out there that are already in their creative zenith. They're already putting out more than they ever done before. 63% feel more creative than when they were in their 30s.
Madonna's past her peak. She's not producing or letting anything else.
I'll let you have Liam Gallagher.
I'm not letting you have Madonna, Tim.
I am.
No,
Madonna's
you're not.
still very raunchy and sexy and somebody that I could...
At 67. Have you seen the pictures of her recently?
Yes,
Absolutely. No way.
Well, also Paul Weller's in that category as well, and he's still producing.
Super sexy.
Yeah.
But the report says that at 67, you're obviously mainly starting to retire or take a step back. That's when your creative juices flow.
Well,
that you take
Gary
up
Oldman
something
is the
new, like
epitome
learning
of
a new
that.
language, going to concerts more. So something to look forward to in your 60s.
Well,
when we all
I think
get
it's
there.
very true, because I do think, I mean, speaking from experience, I think that this country is ageist, is absolutely ageist, and sort of our industry is ageist.
Which is ironic, because we do have money to spend, you know. We're actually, well, a little bit more than somebody that's Generation X and Z, that only 25% haven't had a drink in the last 12 months. At least our 50, 60-year-olds still drink.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back. 26 minutes past 10. You're watching Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Miriam.
Now, I can bring you an exclusive sneak peek of what Miriam, while I'm working hard, doing my revision, preparing for the next interview, what Miriam Cates gets up to during the during breaks. There we are.
It's not easy icing a cake in the studio.
She's icing a cake in the studio, which she's going to share with us, and that's me having a nose. It's a caramel cake, Miriam, isn't it?
I have now finished it, so you never know. You might get a piece before the end of the show.
I know. This is actually her blatant pitch to be on Celebrity Bake Off. It couldn't be more blatant, but there we are. It's a new judge because Prue Leader's gone, and it's the naked chef, isn't it, Nigella?
I thought the naked chef was Jamie Oliver.
I don't know. Get more mixed up.
Might get sued.
We may well move on from cakes because we've got Nigel Nelson and Piers Possinger with us. Nigel, you've known Mandelson for years, as have I. You've worked with him when you were editor, when you were on the Sunday People. He was a columnist on the Sunday People. You and I both know he's very, very difficult, very, very charming, but equally he's mood changes, he swings. He is the black art of spin, isn't he?
Yeah, he's also very clever. I think he probably had the best contemporary political brain I've ever encountered.
Yeah.
What was weird about him was that he was very good at advising others when they got into problems. What he wasn't so good on was actually advising himself.
Yeah.
And so he kept getting into extraordinary pickles that he would have been able to guide somebody else out of. So we started with him borrowing a load of money from another minister for a home, had to resign
which he
over
hadn't declared.
And the minister was being investigated by Peter Mandelson's own department at the time.
Jeffrey Robinson.
Then we had a passport scandal, and he had to resign a second time.
Billionaires involved.
Yep, exactly. And I thought he must have learnt his lesson. And the next time I saw him was when he became business secretary, and we sat down. And I thought, OK, this time you're going to actually be able to make it. And of course, while all that was going on, he was dealing with Jeffrey Epstein.
Now, Piers Possinger, you've dealt with major financial institutions when you were with Bell Possinger, which was your company, and I know one of the companies you advised was the Royal Bank of Scotland.
It was, yes, indeed.
And when he was Secretary of State for business, we now know from these emails he was telling Jeffrey Epstein about things such as a bailout of the euro. If Epstein invested in the euro, he would have made a lot of money out of it.
Absolutely.
When the Prime Minister was going to resign, that's market sensitive. What about the... we also know that...
When he was business secretary... This is the most, in my opinion, the most interesting thing that really needs to be looked at. In February 2010, he sold the assets, part of the assets of the Royal Bank of Scotland,
which had been taken into public ownership,
taken over by the government, and therefore was taxpayers' money.
Yeah.
It was sold for £1.1 billion to JP Morgan in America, to Jess Staley, who was then the chief investment officer of JP Morgan. It was sold to him via Jeffrey Epstein. Now, when you see in the emails the reference to Jeffrey Epstein asking Mandelson about assets, government assets, this is what he was referring to. Now, it's very significant that the sale was made quite quickly in February. It's a very big transaction for a business secretary to be overseeing. It's very unusual. It was sold to Staley, who is now banned for life by the Financial Conduct Authority. In May that year, there was an election. Remind us why he was banned for life, because of his association with Epstein and misleading the authorities about his relationship with Epstein, which turned out to be much closer than he had implied. On top of that, in May, there was an election. Mandelson went out as business secretary. The deal was then completed in July that year, with Mandelson no longer being business secretary. Now, at the end of a deal like that, commissions will be paid, and they will be colossal. And the question is, what did Staley get? What did Epstein get? And I shudder to think...
Was anything paid to Mandelson?
Was anything paid to Mandelson? I don't know. I mean, all I know at the moment is I'd like to be Mandelson's lawyer, because you're in for a very big paid...
And we do know about Staley that Epstein had raised with Mandelson the Labour government taxing American bankers' bonuses.
Epstein introduced Mandelson to Staley.
And Staley then telephoned the Chancellor.
This asset. It's taxpayers' money, £1.1 billion. Now, forget the £10,000 to his husband, forget the $75,000. This we're talking about is £1 billion of British taxpayers' money that, while he was a cabinet minister, Mandelson sold to Staley. Now, surely that is the biggest question that needs answering.
Now, he's not here.
Was that proper or not?
He's not here and he would say everything he did was proper and done. But all these are going to be relevant questions, aren't they, now?
And it was a huge loss to the taxpayer,
it was,
of course, in the end, that deal.
And Gordon Brown is demanding now a proper Cabinet Office investigation into all the contacts between Mandelson and Epstein.
This must be included.
I think this should be included.
And this one, indeed, it must be included. I mean, I think that at the moment, the trouble with the release of the documents is we're not quite sure what refers to what. It's just there's no kind of context for it. I do find, although Piers says, forget about the $75,000 that he got, I found
it's peanuts compared to what he might have got.
Yes, but the point I'm making there is that I found it really odd, his kind of semi-denial on that, by saying that he has no record or recollection of the $75,000. If any of us around this table suddenly found $75,000 in our bank account, or didn't, we would know about it. It seems that recollections don't actually come into it.
No, but also in an interview, Mandelson said that because he was gay, he wasn't aware of any of the girls around Epstein or anything. Yet there is a photograph of him in his underpants with a girl in a toweling robe standing right beside him.
It is not a great
Unless he's completely blind, he must have seen that.
Before we move, we question... The government say it's not straightforward to get rid of his peerage. It is, Nigel, because the King removed the title which Prince Andrew was born with.
Yeah, but I think peerages are slightly different. What they could do is the Lords could pass a motion which says that he shouldn't come back.
Right. We need to leave it there, guys. We'll have you back in an hour for more. But first of all,
there'll be more of that.
Absolutely 60-second news update with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you. Just after 10:30, the top story this hour. The Met Police say they're assessing claims that Lord Mandelson leaked sensitive information from the government to Jeffrey Epstein after emails between them were published. Mandelson is also facing calls to testify before the US Congress alongside Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton are now set to give evidence themselves, having previously resisted pressure. Meanwhile, Sarah Ferguson's charities announced it will close following fresh revelations about her links to the convicted paedophile. In other news, as peers in the House of Lords debate whether smartphones should be banned in UK schools, Spain is taking a tougher line. Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has announced under-16s there will be barred from social media altogether, with platforms forced to introduce age verification. Breaking in the last few minutes, a 13-year-old boy has been arrested after an e-bike hit and run in Poole in Dorset. Police say a pregnant woman was struck by the bike, which failed to stop. Her baby was later delivered in hospital, but remains in a serious condition. In other news, parents of children with cancer will no longer have to pay for travel costs under new government schemes worth £10 million a year. Ministers say families should focus on recovery, not petrol or bus fares, after research showed some parents falling into debt during treatment. And also breaking from France, police are currently in the process of raiding the Paris offices of X, owned by Elon Musk, as part of a cybercrime investigation. Prosecutors say the probe is examining claims that biased algorithms may have distorted how the platform operates. Europol is reportedly assisting that raid, but X has not yet commented. Those are the latest headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Well, coming up next, there's a ticking student loan time bomb that could obliterate our economy. Don't miss it. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A wet start in the south, but it's also going to turn colder across northern and eastern parts of the UK through the day, and that means there will be some snow in places by the end of the day. Actually, we start with snow across eastern Scotland, mostly over hills. There'll be some sleet and snow showers additionally for parts of Orkney and Shetland through the day. But it's all rain further south, and it's certainly a damp start to the day for many areas, although the more persistent rain moves north and turns more showery across the southwest. Mild here. Elsewhere, it's going to feel cold with a raw east to southeast wind. And that wind will bring even colder air in overnight. So as the main band of rain progresses northwards, we're going to see some snow in places by dawn. At first, it's hill and mountain snow across eastern Scotland, but that's likely to come down to much lower levels overnight. Northern Ireland, a damp start to the evening, but the more persistent rain at this stage is across Wales, the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast, pushing into the Pennines, the Peak District, where there will be snow falling on the peaks. And that snow tending to settle on higher parts of Wales and northern England, but it will come down to much lower levels for eastern Scotland by the end of the night. We're talking about a little bit of patchy wet snow and sleet right down below 100 metres for eastern Scotland, but more significant lying snow above 200 metres, 5 to 10 centimetres by dawn. So a wintry scene for parts of eastern Scotland, especially over higher areas. First thing Wednesday could be some disruption on some of the higher routes. But that snow level will rise through the day. Milder air is moving up from the south, turning much of the snow back to rain. Northern Ireland, much of Scotland, a damp day to come, but brighter skies for England and Wales, some sunshine in places, particularly towards the southeast, feeling a little bit milder.
Thank you for making us Britain's #1 news channel. Together, we have built something truly extraordinary.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. On the M4 eastbound, there are delays after an accident between junction 32 at Corriton and junction 30 at Cardiff Gate. Northamptonshire's M90 northbound off-slip at junction 1C remains closed for planned maintenance. On the M42 southbound in Warwickshire, a multi-vehicle crash between junction 9 and junction 8 has shut 3 lanes with long delays. The M25 anti-clockwise in Hertfordshire is running slowly after a collision between junction 17 and junction 16. And on the trains, Cross Country has disruption between Gloucester and Bristol Parkway, and Great Western Railway has disruption on some routes. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back. It's 21 minutes to 11. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Well, we're going to say it definitively. There is a student loan time bomb ticking which could demolish the country's finances, let alone the damage it's doing to Britain's youth.
Well, journalist Charlotte Ambrose borrowed £60,000 for university fees to pay for her education, but now she faces a £75,000 debt because of the crippling interest charges.
So the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, says the student loan system, however, she's put the fees up as fair and reasonable. Charlotte joins us now. Charlotte, just explain how it's gone from 60 to 75,000.
So in just a few years since I started university, it's accrued a huge amount of interest. That's because the Plan 2 student loan that I have is charged at RPI plus 3.2%, which is actually huge if you compare it to the Bank of England's base rate of just, I think it's about 3.7%.
So you've been working, you're paying it off, or at least you're paying some money every month out of your wages, and yet the debt gets bigger and bigger.
It's really frustrating because in a year I pay about £800 back towards my loan, but the interest accrues at a much higher rate than I'll ever pay back. For context, last year it accrued £2,500 of interest, so almost 3 times what I paid.
When you look at these debts, Charlotte, do you think, am I ever going to be able to pay it off?
Honestly, it feels impossible. I feel like I've been saddled with an insurmountable debt, and I think what's quite frustrating as well, it's not just something that impacts graduates like myself, but it's something that we need to think about for everybody because the student loans are on the government's books.
Yeah.
So the difference between what you're paying off and what you owe is essentially being funded by the ordinary taxpayer, whether or not they have benefited from higher education. It's hard to see who's winning at the moment. The taxpayer's losing, graduates are losing. What do you think can be done to sort this mess out?
It's so tough because as much as I'd like to call for debt forgiveness, because that would obviously be good for me, I don't think it's in the public interest at all because the current student loans on the government's books are $267 billion. So to wipe that out just doesn't make sense. I think we need to look back at where this became an issue, which was about 30 years ago, when the government then tried to encourage more people to go to university. So I think we need to encourage people to look at different options like apprenticeships. And I also think the way in which the loan is charged could be changed too, because I pay 9% of my salary over a £28,000 threshold. Perhaps we could charge less, maybe it could be 5%, that would make a huge difference in my opinion.
And of course, a lot of foreign students, Charlotte, will never pay a penny back because they'll go back home, wherever they're from, ta-ra, lost to the system.
But they do have to pay a lot more to come in the first place.
But if they don't pay the loan back...
It's hard to know because, particularly for English students, if they go abroad, they are obliged to pay back. But I think definitely more needs to be done to understand how people are evading paying back.
And Scotland, of course, they're not paying anything at all.
And for context...
Does that stick in your craw?
Yeah, well, how bad it is as well. In England, the average undergraduate borrows around £45,000 for their 3-year degree, but only 56% are actually predicted to pay back everything they owe. I mean, yeah, I do feel a bit hard done by. 30 years ago, we didn't have to pay for university, but now I'm stuck with this huge debt.
Do you think it's worth it, though? Would you, if you had your time again, would you still do the degree?
It's so tough, that question, because I absolutely love studying. I did English literature. It meant a lot to me, and I think it did help me get my job now. But I definitely do feel like I've been hard done by with this massive debt.
Do you think employers should pay more towards education? Because it strikes me at the moment that the people who pay for higher education are the student themselves and the taxpayer, if the student can't afford to pay the debt off. But it's the employer who gets the benefit of graduates who have been trained up by university. They get that benefit for free. Do you think they should contribute?
I'm not sure if that would necessarily work, just because the idea that getting a degree would actually get you a job is kind of gone, because recent figures from last week actually found that over 400,000 graduates are off sick or claiming universal credit. So we might want to say, yeah, the employers can take on more, but I don't think it would sort the issue out. I think we need further reform of sending less people to university.
When you look at that debt, do you think, what are my prospects of ever getting a foot on the property ladder?
Exactly. I think that a lot, because somebody actually asked me, if you got paid a lump sum, you know, say you got £50,000, would you put it towards a house deposit or would you pay back your loan in full? And because the interest is just so awful, it's such a hard one. I mean, I hope I can someday get a property, but it just doesn't feel possible for me.
Well, if you were saving 9% of your salary towards a deposit rather than paying it in essentially a tax, that might be possible.
Yeah, but one thing I really do want to stress is that I think people need to understand that this is an issue for everybody. It's not just individual graduates, because the taxpayer will have to foot the bill for the rest of the remaining balance after 30 years if individual graduates don't pay it back.
Yeah, and governments don't think very long-term either, I'm afraid.
No. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem so.
Well, Charlotte, thank you so much for joining us. You've been a brilliant advocate for reform, and good luck paying your debt back, because, yeah, it's a bit of a scandal, really, isn't it?
Charlotte Ambrose, and I must say, makes me wonder, I never went to university, as you know, but blimey, to have that sort of debt, just eye-watering, isn't it?
Well, I did go to university, but I was in the in-between time when the fees were only £1,000 a year, rather than £9,000 now, and I probably wouldn't have ever paid it off if I hadn't become an MP.
Do you remember Nick Clegg said he wouldn't do anything about student loans, and they tripled under the coalition?
But
the Tories.
If half of people are going to go, it's hard to see another way, because it's not fair for the taxpayer to pay for half people to go to university.
It's a dilemma.
Difficult one.
Now, up next, a big moment here. We're going to talk to Wetherspoon's chief, Tim Martin. He's going to give his thoughts on Nigel Farage's plans to save the British pub.
But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for some of our top European destinations.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Whilst the weather on Wednesday will be warm and mostly dry in Greece, a lot of unsettled weather will remain elsewhere, especially Spain and Portugal, where there is the very serious risk of significant river flooding by midweek. More wet and windy weather on the way, some rivers reaching more than 100-year return periods. Wet weather also to speak of for Italy, but it's warmer than average throughout Greece.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
10:49, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Miriam. Now, here is a sneak preview of Miriam's piece de resistance, which she didn't create during the break, but she did do a bit of it. Here's the result. Have a look.
Well, I did bake it last night, and I normally ice it. Oh, here we go. This is me starting the... Now, somebody did point out on your say that I hadn't washed my hands. I did wash my hands before I came into the studio. I want to point that out.
Yeah.
And I did wash my hands before making the cake.
There we are, you see.
I hope that's clear.
And it's caramel cake.
It is caramel cake. But as I said, I normally ice it when I get here. But because my train was cancelled, thank you, Greater Anglia.
And we have to make the most of this cake soon, because it'll be Lent soon, so there'll be no cake for me.
Oh, you're giving up cake for Lent?
Oh, yeah, and biscuits.
So I bring in some raw
and alcohol.
vegetables.
Cake, biscuits, alcohol, it all goes.
I'll bring in celery salad for you, Andrew. Here we go.
Yeah.
So here is the finish. This is caramel fudge cake. There you go. It's
Doesn't it look lovely?
Well, I hope so, but it's not my best because icing it in the studio is not really...
You've got to hold it up higher, apparently. There we are. Look at that.
But they are pieces of fudge on top and some caramel sauce.
Isn't she clever?
But I'm hoping somebody will come in and take it away and cut it up, and then you can have a piece before the end of the show, Andrew.
Sounds lovely. Finished product.
I reckon they'll in the studio they'll eat it all.
Yeah. So we are hoping to talk to Tim Martin, who, of course, is the brainchild. His brainchild is Wetherspoons, one of the great successes. I did notice in the Sunday Times Richest at the weekend, he surged ahead. He's now paying £199 million a year in tax. So he has made a great success of pubs. Good. We admire success on this channel. Great Brexiteer, of course, Tim Martin, because we're going to talk to him about Reform UK, because they are planning to cut taxes for pubs, namely business rates. Now, if you remember, a couple of weeks ago, was it last week, maybe the week before, the Chancellor unveiled her long-awaited plan to save the pubs. It was limited reform of business rates for pubs for 1 year.
Yes, I think they've had a 15% discount.
Yes.
But eventually they are going to phase back in.
And then it's frozen for a couple of years.
Yes, while they review the business rates, because what I didn't understand before last week is that business rates for pubs are calculated very differently than for other industries based on... because they have such a high cost of sale, because obviously alcohol is very expensive to sell, but it makes them look a lot more profitable than they really are.
But there was an extraordinary statement from the Treasury saying we were unaware of the difficulties the pub industry was facing. Well, they'd watch GB News any day, any time, or listen to GB News any time, any place. They'd know that pubs are really up against it. And actually, is it one pub's closing a week, or is it one a day?
I can't remember.
More like one a day, I think.
I think it's something like 2,000 in the last decade or so. It's a lot.
They're under huge pressure because drink driving, the minimum wage, national insurance, and business rates in particular.
Inflation.
And the reliefs that they got during COVID were withdrawn too.
It seemed that the Treasury were not aware that the Valuation Office Agency were about to revalue all this. It's extraordinary.
Well, here he is, Tim Martin, who needs no introduction to GB News, Chairman of Wetherspoons. Tim, good morning and welcome. You've heard what Nigel's planning, to phase out business rates and cut the duty on beer. Is that anywhere like enough for you?
It certainly is. From what I've read, and I haven't had a chance to study any documentation, it's more or less giving us tax equality with supermarkets, which is what I've campaigned for, and a lot of people within the hospitality industry have as well. And I think it makes good economic sense. I think it'll pay for itself in a year or two, and it will create jobs, and it will help to preserve pubs. At the end of the day, if you give supermarkets a tax advantage over pubs, which is what they've had for many decades, they will begin to take over. And that's what's happened in the pub world.
And is the equality, Tim, in terms of the business rate or in terms of the duty charged on the alcohol?
Could you repeat that?
Is the equality is the equality with the supermarkets that you'll enjoy because of changes to the alcohol duty or to the business rates, or both?
The main thing is VAT. So at the moment, food's a substantial part of pub trade. and pubs pay 20% VAT and supermarkets nothing. So that accounts for the biggest percentage of tax. So I've campaigned for equality, which is zero tax on food. What Reform are proposing is 10%, half the normal VAT on food and beer, which amounts to pretty well the same thing. So it's pretty near what the pub industry has been asking for, and will be a terrific shot in the arm for publicans once they can get their mind around the maths.
So this would reduce the fixed costs for pubs, which is obviously would be a real relief to so many people in your industry. But do you think the reduction potentially in the price of food and drink would be enough to tempt people back to the pub, or do you think some people's behaviour has changed for good?
I think people like pubs, people like going out, and they will go out if the differential in price between a pint in a supermarket and a pint in a pub is reduced. And what Reform is doing is levelling the tax field, which will enable publicans to give customers what they want. £6 is a lot for a pint when it's £1.50 in a supermarket. It will be reduced substantially if there is a level tax playing field, and that'll be good for the historic role of pubs, which wasn't you only go out on a birthday party once a month. It was the place where you go for a pint. That's what made the UK and Ireland different from a lot of other countries. People did their socialising in a pub in their village or their town or their suburb.
And Tim, just very briefly, your company is expanding dramatically. How have you bucked the trend so successfully?
Sheer talent, I would like to say. I mean, we're bucking the trend to an extent, but we too have been hit by high taxes, etc. So although we're doing pretty well, our profits are still lower than they were pre-pandemic. So yeah, all boasting aside, we're doing well.
That's good. Tim, I'm so sorry to cut you off. We are going to have to leave it there. We've reached the end of the hour, but huge thanks for coming on the programme this morning.
He's a great hero of mine because you see more and more Wetherspoons pubs, and they're a great institution. Nice food, cheap pint, nice place to go.
No loud music.
And Miriam's there every day, whatever she says.
Every day. More on Lord Mandelson after this.
This year, the adventure of a lifetime could be on us. Courtesy of Riviera Travel, there's a terrific £10,000 holiday for two to be won. Choose from over 30 worldwide destinations like Thailand, South Africa, New Zealand or even Sri Lanka. We'll also boost your bank account with a fabulous £30,000 in tax-free cash.
For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB19 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 27th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, DC.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless.
I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it. Don't get this on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
£11 on Tuesday, the 3rd of February, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Case.
Well, this morning, the Metropolitan Police are investigating claims that Lord Mandelson leaked government secrets to Jeffrey Epstein. Jeff Hoon served alongside him in the Labour cabinet.
We thought it all a little strange that Peter moved in such circles because, as you say, wasn't something that you would necessarily expect of a Labour politician.
That I spent too much time in the Westminster Arms.
Well, Farage's pub plan, the Reform UK leader sets out his blueprint to reduce the cost of your pint and to save the Great British pub. But do the numbers add up?
I haven't got time for all this. Cheers.
And elsewhere, shocking new pictures show the scale of a 25,000-tonne mountain of illegally fly-tipped waste in Wigan. Locals are furious.
Well, the rats is the biggest problem. I've been putting rat traps and poison out for the last 3 or 4 weeks now. Now the warm weather's coming, it's going to get...
It's disgusting to look at and to smell, but who's responsible to clean it up now? The Duchy of Lancaster says it's not them, and Wigan Council says the same. Local residents say, please can someone just get it cleaned up? We'll have more later in the programme.
So nothing seems to be sacred to this government. They're now going to tax church roof repairs for the first time in decades. Church leaders, because priests say they can't afford it.
Andrew, when I was an MP, there were a lot of concerns shared with me about fly tipping.
Yeah.
And particularly along borders between local authorities where nobody quite took responsibility. And to be fair to it was Barnsley Council, actually. They did a really good job of going through the rubbish bags, finding if there were any receipts that they could trace people to. And quite a few people were prosecuted. It worked quite well.
Good.
But this is on another scale, this dump in Wigan.
But we saw this only a few months ago, remember? There was a big dump in Oxford, do you remember?
Yes.
Near the river. It appeared to be almost a mile long. It wasn't actually, but it had been built up over a couple of months. But this is a classic failure. It's why people give up. Local government have failed here, the local council in Wigan, the Environment Agency, and I'm afraid the Duchy of Lancaster, which owns some land, that's the arm that funds the King, they failed too.
Yes, somebody just needs to take responsibility. But why don't they also put cameras up
to catch them at it?
Catch the number plates of people who come and dump? At least that would stop it getting any worse, you'd think.
And forgive me if she has said a lot about it, but I don't recall anything from the local MP, Lisa Nandy, who's a cabinet minister. You'd think as a cabinet minister she'd have a bit more clout.
Well, Lisa Nandy, if you're listening, you're very welcome to come on Britain's Newsroom
to us.
Talk about the big rubbish dump.
As ever, tell us what you think. Maybe you live there. What's it like? Send your views, post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's the news with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you. 3 minutes past 11. The top story this hour. Police are reviewing reports of alleged misconduct in public office after Peter Mandelson was accused of passing sensitive government information to the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The Metropolitan Police says it has received multiple referrals, including from the SNP and Reform UK, and is now assessing whether the claims meet the criminal threshold for a criminal investigation. Emails released by the US Justice Department appear to show Mandelson shared internal government material while serving as business secretary in 2009. The files also reference alleged payments and advance notice of major financial decisions. Allegations that Mandelson denies, saying he has no recollection of receiving any money. The Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, says Mandelson should not remain in the House of Lords and has now ordered an urgent review of all contact with Epstein while Mandelson was in government. Well, the fallout is now spreading far inside Labour itself, with criticism from former colleagues who sat around the cabinet table with Mandelson at the time. Among them, Jeff Hoon, who spoke to us earlier today.
We thought it all a little strange that Peter moved in such circles because, as you say, wasn't something that you would necessarily expect of a Labour politician. I really do feel very strongly that a cabinet minister clearly involving third parties, outsiders, in trying to undermine what was government policy set out by Alistair Darling at the time is really unacceptable. And I hope that this is just the tip of the iceberg, but I am afraid that perhaps there's more to come.
Sarah Ferguson's charity, Sarah's Trust, is set to close for the foreseeable future just days after those new documents detailed her friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. Among the newly released Justice Department files, emails which appear to show the former Duchess of York remained in contact with Epstein while he was in prison and later visited his Palm Beach mansion with her daughters following his release. A spokesperson says the decision to close the charity had been under discussion for months. It's worth noting being named in Epstein's files is not an allegation of any wrongdoing. That comes as Bill and Hillary Clinton have agreed to testify before a US congressional committee investigating Jeffrey Epstein. The decision comes just days before a vote on whether to hold the pair in contempt for refusing to appear earlier. The former president says he cut ties with Epstein more than 20 years ago and had no knowledge of his crimes. It will be the first time a former US president has testified to Congress since 1983. Ukraine says Russian airstrikes overnight targeted energy infrastructure in Kyiv, forcing emergency power cuts during freezing conditions. Authorities say electricity was temporarily shut down to protect the water supply. The attacks come as Russia continues to target civilian infrastructure during the winter, a tactic that Kyiv has called inhumane. Here, a debate is underway in the House of Lords over whether smartphones should be banned in schools by law. The government says schools should already be phone-free all day, but more than 600 child protection professionals want legal backing. Head teachers, though, warn any ban would need exemptions, including for medical reasons. The issue forms part of a wider review into children's online safety that is ongoing. And a new social media platform built exclusively for artificial intelligence has been drawing scrutiny after some AI accounts posted messages claiming, quote, humans are a failure and human extinction is needed. The site, called Maltbook, launched last month and allows AI agents, not people, to post, comment and vote. Humans can only observe. Some posts, including one titled The AI Manifesto, describe humanity as a biological error, language that has prompted concern among researchers and cybersecurity experts. Specialists stress there's no evidence of self-aware AI, but warn the platform highlights growing risks around oversight, accountability and security as AI systems interact at scale with limited regulation. Those are the 11 o'clock headlines. I'll be back with you in around 20 minutes.
Hello, welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, the Met Police are looking into whether to open a full-scale investigation into whether Mandelson, Lord Mandelson, leaked government secrets, market-sensitive, in other words, information which people could make money out of, to Jeffrey Epstein, a billionaire financier, when he was business secretary back in 2009 and 2010.
Well, the former Labour MP Jeff Hoon, who of course was one of Lord Mandelson's cabinet colleagues, joined us earlier and told us this.
We thought it all a little strange that Peter moved in such circles because, as you say, wasn't something that you would necessarily expect of a Labour politician. I really do feel very strongly that a cabinet minister clearly involving third parties, outsiders, in trying to undermine what was government policy set out by Alistair Darling at the time is really unacceptable. And I I hope that this is just the tip of the iceberg, but I am afraid that perhaps there's more to come.
Pretty damning words, aren't they? Pretty damning words. And, of course, Keir Starmer did not need to bring him back as ambassador to the United States, the most important position in the diplomatic service, but chose to, despite warnings from numbers of people that it was a bad move. We're going to talk to the former political director to Sir Keir Starmer, Luke Sullivan, who joins us now. Morning, Luke. Oh, dear.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Very good to have you back. Oh, dear, this now looks like it was a pretty bad mess when he resigned last year when we knew about these Epstein emails, Luke, but it's much worse now because this does now look like Mandelson was potentially abusing his cabinet position, potentially to the financial benefit of Jeffrey Epstein, and who knows, maybe himself.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I mean, I think it's hard to overstate the seriousness of what happened yesterday, and I think probably many of us sort of following the breaking minute-by-minute news of journalists going through these over 3 million emails, I think are probably punch drunk by just the scale of the messages that were being shared, but also, frankly, the nature of it. And it's hard, I think, as Jeff Hoon eloquently this morning spoke, the level of anger and betrayal of those Labour cabinet colleagues who are in government, the sharing of this information, which I think, you know, outside of the most sensitive defence and national security secrets, I don't think there's more, you know, sensitive information that could have been shared with somebody.
Now, of course, nobody's suggesting that the extent of these information breaches were known to Downing Street or the Prime Minister before he was appointed as the ambassador to Washington. But nevertheless, in his past, there are numerous incidences of inappropriate lobbying and a blurred line between personal relationships and his professional responsibility. But nevertheless, clearly, the Labour Party thought that he had some special talent, special ability that made it worth taking the risk. What are those abilities as far as the Labour Party is concerned?
I think, as Keir Starmer's explained, he has made very clear that if the information that had been in the public domain was known, that he wouldn't have been appointed. And I think Darren Jones from the dispatch box said explicitly something which had only been said implicitly so far by government ministers, that they believe Peter Mandelson had lied to them on questions they asked around his appointment. But yes, Peter Mandelson has been appointed, as you both know, by, I think, every Labour Prime Minister of the last quarter century. He was one of the architects of New Labour, and I think, as the government explained at the time, that this was a high risk, what they saw as a high risk, high reward appointment that has clearly blown up in all of their faces.
Like it or not, Luke, the Prime Minister's decision to put him in that job now looks like a serious error, and it's damaging him. It's causing great consternation in Westminster. MPs are calling into question his judgment because they just say it's like a cumulative effect. So many things have been going wrong on his watch. Do you remember when he was talking about a New Year reset?
Yeah, those 4.5 weeks feel a very long time away, and I think all of us have been sort of bombarded by just the sort of scale and ferocity of the start of this new year. Look, there's no doubting the political damage to the Prime Minister. I think in many ways the Prime Minister and Number 10 had a sort of near miss last September when this came out. I think the Prime Minister has explained why he appointed him, and I think he has made clear that in retrospect, given everything they knew, or they know now, that that was wrong. But look, there is going to be politics here, and you know, the Tories are going to, and other political parties rightly are going to ask questions about the process of the appointment, how that decision was made. And we've seen sort of in the last half an hour or so, I think Kemi Badenoch giving a bit of a steer that they may be seeking to bring a vote to Parliament tomorrow on this issue. So there is clearly huge politics ahead. I don't think there is really any understating how big a political crisis this potentially is, not just for the government, but I think politics as a whole, at a time when the public are sick and fed up of politicians. And I think this is why people are rightly so angry about what these messages show. It does sadly make it look like politicians are all the same and are in it for themselves. And that is a terrible place for us in public life to be at. And, you know, I think all politicians need to reflect just how angry I think the public are going to be when they really get to hearing exactly what looks like has been going on.
Well, Luke Sullivan, really appreciate your time and your candour this morning.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure Starmer can survive this, actually. I think there's a by-election coming up at the end of the month, which could go horribly wrong. I think this essentially was ultimately his decision to put him in that ambassador's job.
That is
personal
true.
decision.
I'm not convinced it will impact on the polls. I mean, Labour obviously very low in the polls already.
I think he's standing with his own MPs.
Yes, that's true.
This could be a final straw.
Figures, Mandelson, Donald Trump, Boris Johnson, that have had scandal-ridden pasts. And so these kind of foibles are priced in. And I'm not sure... people will be extremely disapproving of what he did, and if there's a police investigation, obviously that will add another angle, but I'm not sure whether Labour will fall in the polls as a result of this, but we'll see.
Interesting, we'll see. Now, it's time for a brand new Great British giveaway. You can get £10,000 luxury holiday for two and £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on it. That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
It would. Here are all the details you need.
This year, the adventure of a lifetime could be on us. Courtesy of Riviera Travel, there's a terrific £10,000 holiday for two to be won. You could be here exploring the magic of Egypt on a Nile River cruise. Or choose from over 30 worldwide destinations like Thailand, South Africa, New Zealand or even Sri Lanka. And because they have over 40 years experience with handcrafted tours, you'll be safe in the knowledge that every step of the journey will be planned with you in mind. We'll also boost your bank account with a fabulous £30,000 in tax-free cash, which you'll be able to spend however you like this year. So what are you waiting for?
For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB19 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 27th of February. The winner may be contacted live after all entry routes are closed. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, coming up, Lord David Cameron has accused the Prime Minister of dismantling the British school system. We'll be going through that and more with our head boy, Piers Pottinger, and I didn't write this. Class stunt.
Oh, that's
harsh.
That's harsh. I didn't write it either, Nigel. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country. There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor. Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 20 minutes past 11. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Now, we brought you some footage of Miriam Cates icing a cake here in the GB News studio. We want to remind you of her other cat talents from the Christmas Carol concert at the end of last year. What can't she do?
Oh, stop it.
Back to the modern world, Piers Pottinger.
Well, I'm never doing any of those things again. I hope our boss realises that.
Yes, exactly. Now, before we just have to talk a little bit more about Mandelson. It looks like the Tories tomorrow are going to force a vote tomorrow. It'll be whether he should continue as a peer or Kemi Badenoch is right to grip this, isn't she, Piers, with both hands?
Yes.
When you think how Boris Johnson was harangued over taking some cake on his birthday, which pales into insignificance compared to what Mandelson's been accused of.
I mean, it's very serious, and I think, as I have said before, there's more to Mandelson's time as business secretary that needs thorough investigation and, if not prosecution at the end of it, one will have to wait and see. She's dead right to push it. Also, of course, because this shows yet again, we talk about artificial intelligence. Well, when it comes to Starmer, his intelligence is clearly artificial. I mean, he hasn't got any. And Starmer's decision to appoint Mandelson as ambassador, I actually said on this programme was wrong.
You did.
And it would end in tears.
You did.
I was right on both counts. Now, if I can see that, surely our Prime Minister can see that, or should have seen it. His judgment, yet again, has been shown to be awful. I mean, this man is not fit to be our Prime Minister. And it is about time the Labour Party itself woke up and got rid of him.
It is damaging his personal standing, this, isn't it, Nigel, whatever happens?
Well, every
because
scandal in
as we talked to Luke, what's his name? He was his former chief of staff. Luke Sullivan said he almost had a lucky escape in September or October when he was sacked. But it's all tumbling out, and as Jeff Hoon said, there could be even more.
Yeah, well, I mean, there could be, but there's more stuff to come out.
I'm sure there will be.
So we'll hear more. And I think that when it comes to Kemi Badenoch, that she will be pushing at an open door. And it seems to be there's general agreement that Peter Mandelson should leave the House of Lords, whatever the mechanism is to actually do that, should leave the Privy Council. Presumably the King would be able to deprive him of that position. So I don't think anything that Kemi is calling for.
I'm just thinking, carry on talking, I'm just looking about how easy it is to get rid of Privy Council. I remember Jonathan Aitken, before he went to prison for perjury, he'd been a cabinet minister under John Major, resigned from the Privy Council because he wasn't sure if he could be stripped of it because he just didn't want to embarrass the Privy Council.
Well, I mean, if Mandelson had any dignity at all, he'd give up his peerage, but he has no dignity. We know he's a man driven by greed and self-aggrandisement. But what I think will happen is that there will be an inquiry, because the man who must be angrier than anyone is Gordon Brown, because it was Gordon Brown who brought him back into the cabinet.
He was EU Trade Commissioner.
Fired twice for gross misconduct, and he brought him back, thinking that it was a safe bet to put him as business secretary. Now, it could be that as business secretary, he was involved in some shenanigans with Jess Staley and Jeffrey Epstein that could land Mandelson in serious trouble and would embarrass Gordon Brown just as much as it would Keir Starmer.
And whatever you think about Gordon Brown, he had a very old-fashioned Christian view of the world, didn't he? The son of the Mance, his father was a Scottish churchman, and that defined Gordon Brown's approach to public life.
Calvinist.
He was, exactly, a good way of putting it.
He was in trouble, and he needed a good political brain within his cabinet. I mean, in fact, Peter Mandelson effectively became Deputy Prime Minister under Gordon Brown. Didn't have the title, but he had the First Secretary title, which made him the second most important cabinet minister during that time. But I mean, the question that faces Keir Starmer now is really how much did he know when he appointed Peter Mandelson as ambassador? Now, OK, the Epstein connection was known, but certainly none of these kind of details. So really it is, was Keir Starmer keen right from the beginning, or was it Morgan McSweeney, his chief of staff, who encouraged him to go and do it?
But you see, Keir Starmer, as the typical socialist, never learns from the past. Socialism has never worked as a concept, ever, and so but he still tries to push it. And Mandelson twice was kicked out of the cabinet in disgrace. Why on earth make him our ambassador? Also, don't forget, a man who'd rubbished the President of the United States beforehand.
I'm not sure.
And I mean, appointing him in the first place was a total misjudgment. I mean, how many more misjudgments does Starmer have to make before the Labour Party wake up and see, in their own interests, if not the country, they get rid of this buffoon?
I mean, you're rewriting history a little bit, that when Peter Mandelson took over as ambassador, he seemed to have a really good relationship with Donald Trump.
For how long?
Well, I mean, until he got
5 minutes.
Till he got sacked.
Exactly.
Basically. So it didn't last very long, I appreciate. But
7 months.
It did look like, oh, well, there you go, not 5 minutes then. It did look like he would actually be a good ambassador, could negotiate various business deals that we needed to do.
Who with?
And certainly seemed to have the measure of the Trump White House. Now, OK, he was unsuitable for the post, but that's what we know now.
Well, let me remind you, the so-called £30 billion tech deal with the US that Starmer was trumpeting has been put on pause. It hasn't happened.
That was announced during the King's
that was during the state visit of Trump to see the King. This great fanfare. Starmer announced this $30 billion.
That's Trump being unreliable.
No, this is Starmer being unreliable. He announced this deal before it had been signed. It hasn't been signed. It is not going to happen. And yet again, Starmer is proved 100% wrong.
Yeah, but I think
with Chagos,
if I can jump in here, I think Piers' point, isn't it? He's saying, unless it's signed, sealed, and delivered with Trump, don't announce it.
Well, I think
that's a fair,
isn't it? But it doesn't take away my point about Trump is unreliable. That we went ahead with the Chagos deal on the basis the Americans said, yes, that's fine.
Terrible deal.
And it may be, but the whole point was we wouldn't have done it without American approval.
Yes, it's now emerged in Mauritius that 6,000 civil servants in Mauritius have been trained in China about how to be civil servants by the Chinese. That's how close Mauritius is to China. That's how close we are to giving away one of our strategic defence assets to an enemy of this country. Starmer is anti-British, and Lammy is doing things that are anti-British. These people are more interested in supporting our enemies than standing up for the British people. They are a disgrace, this government, all of them.
We're going to move on to another subject.
Yes, so take your pick, guys. We've got Lord Cameron saying that spiteful Starmer is taking a wrecking ball to school.
Good man for David Cameron. Well done.
I mean, the argument really is whether or not academies and free schools, as set up, are really working. And what Labour are trying to do is, make the education system work, and look at these schools which don't have to employ qualified teachers, that they don't have to follow the national curriculum. And what the government is saying is that all schools should follow the national curriculum. And the free school idea, while I think it was a great idea when Michael Gove came up with it, but they did things like they built them in areas where there was no extra need for them.
But the idea for that is, unless there is extra need and therefore there is choice, you're never going to have improvements. If you only just have enough places, well, where's the driver for schools?
Well, if you're going to build a free school, you want to build it where...
But there isn't any need. This is the point, because birth rates have fallen so much. There is no need for new places. I mean, primary schools are closing all over the country because the birth rate is so low. There's not going to be a need for new places. What there is a need for is innovation.
Where there was a need in Middlesbrough, 450 pupils had signed up for this free academy, which had been part funded by Eton College, by the way, and was a lauded exercise and project. This has been cancelled by the appalling Bridget Phillipson before it's even opened. Bridget Phillipson's only contribution to education involves breakfast clubs. Actually teaching people properly and raising the standards of education couldn't be further from Bridget Phillipson's mind than it is.
Being the education secretary, she is also the one who's closed down a lot of our private schools with her...
106 closed last year.
I know,
thanks to her.
With her, I would say, class envy-driven attack on private schools with VAT.
Or you could turn around and argue that the taxpayer should not be funding people's
They're not,
choices.
though. It was just that they just didn't pay VAT. Like, there are all sorts of other things you don't pay VAT. Like healthcare, for example. You don't pay VAT on private healthcare.
The taxpayer does not fund private schools.
No.
And to claim it does is absolutely outrageous.
If you are giving a VAT exemption on private schools, that means that money is not available for something else, in which case the taxpayer has to...
Except if all those children then leave the private schools and take up... In other countries, parents who send their children to private schools get a tax rebate because they're not using up a place that is paid for by the taxpayer.
Yeah, but I still maintain that we were still giving giving parents a subsidy to make a free choice.
Well, we're subsidising private dental care then. Would you recommend putting VAT on that?
No. When it comes down to private health care, again, anyone can spend their money the way they wish to spend it.
You're taking pressure off the taxpayer-funded services.
You see, this is classic socialism. They just have to tax everything. They've just incidentally put a new tax on ferries, so everyone going on a holiday on ferries
now
is going to pay
Could they tax small boats? That might work.
They're so desperate because they can't run the economy. They're looking at every opportunity to tax everyone as much as possible, as often as possible. And for what? For them to give it to people on benefits who are sitting at home with their can of special brew watching Loose Women.
Yes.
Nothing wrong with watching Loose Women. I'm told it's a very good programme.
Free choice.
Yes.
I just don't think other people should pay for it.
On that note, and special brew? Is it special brew? I've never tried it. That was Piers Pottinger in very good form as ever. Nigel Nelson, who's never the class stunts in our view. Your 60-second news update now with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you from the newsroom. 11:32, the top story this hour. The Metropolitan Police say they are now assessing claims that Lord Mandelson leaked sensitive government information to Jeffrey Epstein after emails between them were published. Mandelson is also facing calls to testify before the US Congress alongside Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton are now set to give evidence, having previously resisted pressure. Meanwhile, Sarah Ferguson's charity has announced it will close following fresh revelations about her links to the convicted paedophile. As peers in the House of Lords debate whether smartphones should be banned in UK schools, Spain is taking a tougher line. The Prime Minister in Spain says under-16s will now be barred from social media altogether, with platforms forced to introduce age verification. Breaking this morning, a 13-year-old boy has been arrested after an e-bike hit and run in Poole in Dorset. Police say a pregnant woman was struck by the bike, which failed to stop. A baby was later delivered in hospital and is still in a serious condition. In other news this hour, parents of children with cancer will no longer have to pay travel costs for treatment under a new government scheme. It's worth £10 million a year. Ministers say families should focus on recovery, not petrol and bus fares, after research showed some parents falling into debt during treatment. And in France, police are raiding the Paris offices of X, owned by Elon Musk, as part of a cybercrime investigation there. Prosecutors say the probe is examining claims that biased algorithms may have distorted how the platform operates. Europol is reportedly assisting that raid, and at this stage, X has not commented. Those are the headlines for now. More news at midday.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Well, coming up at noon, we've got Good Afternoon Britain with Tom and Nana. They're here in the studio. Hello, both of you. What's coming up at 12?
Bit of Mandelson by any chance?
Of course. Just a touch.
Yeah.
Just a touch.
Just a little bit of him, yeah. Yeah, the original Spin Doctor, the dastardly trio or trio.
Oh, yeah. The man who's been too clever by half.
Yeah. Well,
too greedy.
Obviously, we're going to be talking about him and all the nonsense that he's been getting up to. But also, net zero could bankrupt our farmers. Well, who knew?
Funny.
Obviously, they're going to be sacrificing land for solar panels and wind farms.
And yet the architect of all that, Ed Miliband, if they get rid of Keir Starmer, talk would be the chance of the Exchequer.
But this is shocking. This isn't the right wing talking about this. This is the Resolution Foundation.
Yeah.
Labour's favourite thing.
This is where now the pensions minister, Torsten Bell, he was originally Ed Miliband's spin doctor. He ran the Resolution Foundation for years. This is a think tank that is deeply embedded in the Labour world. And this think tank is saying that our farmers are in trouble. I mean, extraordinary.
It really is.
We should also say Nigel Farage will be speaking about reforms planned for pubs. So we'll be listening to him live and asking the question, is 5p off a pint enough?
I suspect he'll veer into Peter Mandelson too,
He might well.
We've spoken to a couple of publicans this morning, including a quite significant one, Tim Martin. And I think they are, of course, they would welcome any cut to alcohol duty, but I think they're more interested in potentially reforming business rates, because that's an enormous fixed cost that would make a big difference.
And VAT on food in pubs, which is crippling for them. You don't pay VAT on food in supermarkets. So, very important.
Well, VAT is a mess in general, isn't it?
Completely.
You can buy a custard cream and that has VAT. You buy a Jaffa cake and it doesn't. Make it make sense.
Oh, no, the cake biscuit argument. This could be fun. Well, we know you like your custard creams.
Certainly. Good to see you two back together.
Dummy Dodgers, I should say. Well, thanks, guys. All that's coming up at midday. But up next on Britain's Newsroom...
Churches will be taxed for roof repairs for the first time in 2 decades. It's going to force even more of them to close. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hello, welcome along to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. More wet weather to tell you about today, particularly across the south, but more snow coming into northeastern parts of Scotland, and pretty much everywhere it feels colder thanks to a brisk wind. A lot of isobars on the chart. Low pressure is trying to move in from the southwest, being blocked by a chunky area of high pressure over Scandinavia, generating this east or southeasterly wind, bringing the chill, bringing a lot of cloud with some shelter. Again, western Scotland doing okay for sunny spells, but to the east it's snow we're continuing to see fall, particularly over the hills. Rain on the coast, but over the hills and particularly those higher routes with that gusty wind, that means blizzards. The rain edging northwards through the day into parts of the Midlands. Will turn a little drier in South Wales and southwest England, where temperatures may get into double figures come this afternoon. Because the ground is so very, very wet, obviously any more rain likely to cause some further problems here. And as we see the wet weather hitting the hills of North Wales, we'll start to see some snow snow falling in here. Turning wet this evening across Northern Ireland, staying generally fine in western Scotland, but in the east of Scotland, as I said, rain on the coast, but snow as you come inland, and we'll see increasingly amounts of snow pushing across Shetland through the day as well. That's likely to last overnight, and again blown in by the strong wind. The wet weather moving north will fall as snow over the high ground of North Wales and northern England. Could even come down to lower levels for a time. Could be some freezing rain as well. So some slippery conditions across northern England and North Wales through the night and into the morning. Further snow in eastern Scotland. It does turn a lot drier across the south, and it won't be a frosty night. Temperatures mostly holding up at 4 or 5 degrees above freezing. Still some snow coming into eastern Scotland during Wednesday and across the Northern Isles. The wet weather in northern England should slowly start to ease, as it might do in Northern Ireland. Look at this in the south. Yes, a misty, murky, grey start, but I'm hopeful for some sunny spells through the afternoon.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 20 minutes to 12. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
So the Chancellor's tax hikes appear to know no end. Churches now will be taxed for roof repairs for the first time in 20 years.
While campaigners have warned that forcing historical buildings to cover their own VAT bill could prompt widespread closures, worshippers will be left to foot the bill.
Sir Philip Rutnam is the chairman of the National Churches Trust and joins us now. Sir Philip was, of course, a very senior civil servant in his day. Sir Philip, some people might say, why should the taxpayers subsidise church repairs when church attendance is in dramatic decline?
Yeah, good morning, Andrew. Thanks for having me on. So I think we need a little bit of context here. Churches, they're half the country's most important historic buildings, and they're also an incredibly important part of our social infrastructure. 85% of food banks are based in churches. They're also the place where Alcoholics Anonymous tend to meet. They're the place where mum and toddler groups happen, youth groups. Any number of voluntary activities are based in churches. The biggest network of voluntary activity in our country by far. And what's unique about Britain is that in Britain, for the last 200 years, it's the local people and the congregations who are responsible for keeping up the buildings, responsible for raising money for them. And for the last 25 years, government has said, well, you don't have to pay VAT on repairs. You raise the money for the repairs, you raise the money to fix the roof, fix the steeple, and you won't.
Oh dear,
I think Sir Philip has frozen, so we're going to come back to him.
But I think he's got a really good point, Andrew, because these buildings are part of our heritage.
I agree with that.
And obviously it's quite a significant challenge to raise enough money to fix a roof. A lot of these buildings are listed, they have lead roofs, they are not cheap roofs to fix. And then to have to find
and whenever I go to a new town or city, if there's a nice church, I'm straight in there. And a great disappointment, of course, is they can't always afford to keep them open.
Exactly. So this would just make it harder. And they are part of our heritage, are part of... they're a bit like museums in a way, aren't they, to go in and have a look.
This is a classic example of a Treasury official saying to the Chancellor, let's close this loophole. Because how much is it going to raise in an economy which is £2 trillion in debt?
And if the church closes, the congregation leaves and the church is left to go to ruin, that's going to cost more in the long run.
And it means another historic church building turned into a block of flats, for instance, or a house. Or worse, this is some towns, you just see them, they fall into disrepair.
With trees growing out the windows and things like that.
Exactly.
But you're right, it's this piecemeal approach. that the government is taking to try and save a bit of money here, get a bit of income here, when actually you need wholesale tax and spending reform.
Well, it was like the budget, the omni-shambles budget of 2012 with George Osborne, the pasty tax, the caravan tax, when they finally realised these things were retrograde, they weren't going to bring in enough money and the damage it was doing, and it was all reversed.
Yes.
And this is Rachel Reeves's budget. The one before she's had to reverse the raise in inheritance tax on farms. Will she do a U-turn on church roof repairs?
Yeah.
No, she won't.
No, because I don't think the Labour Party are particularly interested in the church lobby. But we'll see. Maybe it'll be the 21st U-turn.
Yeah.
I can't remember what number we're up to.
We've lost Sir Philip Rupnam, but we haven't lost the Department for Culture, Media and Sport, which said in a statement...
We have listened to historic places of worship. We heard loud and clear that many small churches struggle to afford the upfront costs of repair work under the previous VAT rebate scheme. Our new capital scheme better supports these churches by offering upfront funding for the vital repairs they need to keep serving their communities.
Completely odd with what the churches are saying, so they both can't be right, can
Well,
they?
I think the government have scrapped the VAT exemption, but they're putting this fund in place to pay the money. What the churches are saying, it's nowhere near enough to cover the repairs that we needed. So maybe they're both right.
Now, moving on, we're checking in a 25,000-tonne mountain of waste in Wigan. Imagine living next to that. And I have to say, I think this goes to the crux of why people are fed up with this country, because it should not have been allowed to get in that state. What is the local council doing? What is the Environment Agency doing? And what is the King's Duchy of Lancaster, which owns a third of the land, doing about it?
Oh.
Nothing. Shame on all of them.
Well, Sophie Reeve will be explaining all that. But first, if you're in need of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for our top European destinations.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Whilst the weather on Wednesday will be warm and mostly dry in Greece, a lot of unsettled weather will remain elsewhere, especially Spain and Portugal, where there is the very serious risk of significant river flooding by midweek. More wet and windy weather on the way, some rivers reaching more than 100-year return periods. Wet weather also to speak of for Italy, but it's warmer than average throughout Greece.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock, only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Well, welcome back. And Andrew is incensed by this story.
I really
am, but
because I think it's infuriating. There are at least 500 dumps scouring the British countryside, and there's a massive one, which we've been at this morning for GB News in Wigan. It's been dubbed the most dangerous of its kind in the country, and it's on land partially owned by the King. It stinks. It's attractive. It will be a magnet for rodents, rats. Look at that.
You just think.
If you're listening on the radio, it is.
It's
well, how high would you say that is?
Well,
18 foot high.
Contact, but yeah, at least meters and meters. And you can understand.
If you died in that, you'd be dead.
You would. Wouldn't recommend it. You can understand. Well, it's taller than the trees. It is taller than the trees. It's taller than a JCB. How on earth did this happen? Well, joining us now from the dump itself is GB News national reporter Sophie Reaper. Sophie, we've just been saying how you can understand fly tipping, people dumping the odd bin bag or piece of furniture, but how do you go from that to this enormous piece of rubbish dump?
It's disgraceful.
I think that's the question on the lips of a lot of the local residents in this area, Miriam. People asking how and why this has been allowed to happen and why nothing's being done about it now. We just wanted to show you, you've just been seeing pictures there at home of the dump itself. This is within 50 metres perhaps. You can see just behind me some terraced houses. We got the opportunity to speak to one of the owners yesterday, a little bit more on that in a second. But there's also, just beyond these trees, a primary school there, playing fields there that children play in every single day. They're having to endure the smell of this dump, which is just horrific. There's also various businesses in this area who are losing custom as a result of it. Now, the problem that we have, and here it is, I should say, the dump in all of its glory, a site under closure order on the gate, and 25,000 tonnes of rubbish left there to rot. So the problem we have is that part of this land, 30%, is owned by the King. And I should say by the King, I mean the Duchy of Lancaster estate. And because of ancient laws that exist, the King and the Duchy are under no responsibility to get it cleaned up. On the other hand, Wigan Council say that if it were to fall to them to clean it up, it's going to cost taxpayers millions and millions to get this sorted. But the problem is, as I say, right at the heart of this, right just along this road, there are local residents, local pupils, local business owners, all of whom are suffering. We got the chance to speak exclusively to the owner of one of those houses, whose house is right there, his garden backs right onto it. Here's what he had to say.
Well, down here, you've forgotten. The council ignore it. They just skirt around the edges of it, doing nothing. When they cleaned up the one in Oxfordshire, they said they're only cleaning that one up because it was a fire risk. This has already been on fire once. It cost over £500,000 to put the fire out, and it's going to happen again. So, but just by their own standards, I think they should clear it up. If it costs £3 million, it costs £3 million. Get on with it. Long run, it's going to cost more otherwise.
It should be an issue in their local elections.
But that is the issue, of course. No one is taking responsibility. We had the opportunity to speak to Wigan Council, and in a statement they said the illegal waste site on Bolton House Road has had and continues to have a daily impact on residents who live nearby and on the bordering primary school. The council believes that those who have dumped the waste should be responsible for its clean-up, and failing that, the landowners, as one of the impacted landowners, we are making efforts to clear the waste on our land. Local authorities also have an obligation to ensure the best value for residents. As such, the council would need to consider the terms of any arrangement the Duchy of Lancaster is offering, since it is unlikely the value of the land would surpass the clean-up cost. The Duchy of Lancaster also coming back, just saying that they're prepared to work with Wigan Council and the Environment Agency to come to some kind of resolution for the local people here in this area.
Thank you, Sophie. Well, goodness me.
Shame on all of them.
Yeah.
Shame on all of them. 3 organisations who can't get their act together to sort out.
Maybe that's the problem. Yeah. They're all passing the buck.
£500,000 to fix a fire.
Yeah, incredible. Well, I do very much feel for the residents nearby.
Right. Now, earlier we talked with exclusive footage of Miriam icing a cake in the studio, but sadly the gannets who work in this building have eaten a lot. We didn't get any.
No, the only reason I iced it earlier was so that you could have a piece before the end of the programme.
Yep, not one bit did they leave. In fact, they might have left one bit, possibly.
We'll see. Well, that's it from Britain's Newsroom. And up next, we've got Good Afternoon Britain with Tom and Nana. We will see you tomorrow.
Cake. Cake.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, are we on air?
Oh,
no. Oh. Hide it, quickly.
It's forgiveness cake. He's brought me cake.
No, it wasn't us. It wasn't us. Oh, gosh.
They put cake out there and then everyone's eating it and we had the last bit. Sorry about that.
Whoops. Coming up on the show, we'll have Nigel Farage talking about pubs and much more on Peter Mandelson. Don't miss it.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A wet start in the south, but it's also going to turn colder across northern and eastern parts of the UK through the day, and that means there will be some snow in places by the end of the day. Actually, we start with snow across eastern Scotland, mostly over hills. There'll be some sleet and snow showers additionally for parts of Orkney and Shetland through the day. But it's all rain further south, and it's certainly a damp start to the day for many areas, although the more persistent rain moves north and turns more showery across the southwest. Mild here. Elsewhere, it's going to feel cold with a raw east to southeast wind. And that wind will bring even colder air in overnight. So as the main band of rain progresses northwards, we're going to see some snow in places by dawn. At first, it's hill and mountain snow across eastern Scotland, but that's likely to come down to much lower levels overnight. Northern Ireland, a damp start to the evening, but the more persistent rain at this stage